Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very pleased to have with us Chad Dunavant, who's the Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy and Product Officer at CSG. Chad, thank you for joining me today.
It's good to be back with you, Doug. I appreciate the time and look forward to the conversation.
Well, we're in the run-up to the Mobile World Congress, and the topic today is eliminating subscription complexity to better drive customer lifetime value. Before we dive into that, Chad, tell me a little bit about CSG and what you do there.
Sure. So at CSG, we're hyper-focused at building platforms that help leading brands across the world really connect with their customers. And what that means is helping build software platforms, software tools that ensure by the time you come on, you onboard, you shop for services and become a customer, that entire life cycle is managed in a consistent way and allows brands to connect with individuals on a very personalized level. So we've been doing that in the telecommunications industry for the better part of 4 decades. And over the last 5 or 6 years, really started to take those solutions out to other markets and helping brands in verticals like healthcare, retail, financial services, really solve some similar problems. Specifically at CSG, what I do, I'm focused really on the long-term strategy of our product portfolio, ensuring that we're evolving that strategy to address the new needs of our customers today and also into the future, and also focused on how we enhance that portfolio through inorganic moves that are strategic to what we do here.
So it's no secret, anyone who's got a credit card sees the subscriptions one by one listed. Why is this model so popular, and is it good for the consumer?
Well, I think first for the business, it's very popular because it provides predictable, recurring, upfront revenue streams, right? So, the subscription economy kind of came into vogue almost 10 years ago when more and more services were being offered on kind of these low recurring credit card kind of transactions. It reduced complexity, it reduced the need to send out bills. So yeah, businesses really like it because of all those reasons. And I think consumers liked it, at least at the start, because it gave them really more kind of a la carte type of services. I could manage, my subscriptions one-off. I could easily sign up for them, especially in the digital age. I could cancel those services quickly without retribution or penalty fees. So that became a really, I think, powerful model for customers as they evolved. It also helped create kind of a longer-term relationship with the brand itself. But I think as this has really exploded, and as you mentioned, you look at your credit card every month, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 15, 20, 25 of these services. In some cases, you kind of forget that you're even subscribing to something because you're not seeing the benefit or the value. I think it even leads one to wonder, are they not communicating with you on purpose because there's a fear of you potentially churning? So I think that's all in the back of our mind as we think about subscriptions, and maybe as we think about the evolution of what that subscription economy looks like as we head into 2025 and beyond.
So you're saying it remains a good and sound model for businesses to grow and gain new customers, but is there some sort of impact here on possibly customer loyalty?
I do think there is an impact on customer loyalty if one, the brand isn't connecting with them on a meaningful level. So if one, they're not delivering the value of the service any longer, and it becomes difficult to find or disconnect those services as a result, or as we've seen recently, prices continue to go up, right? So I think one of the things all the consumers are feeling is, am I getting the value out of that subscription that I once got? And maybe there's an entry price in and around the subscription that got you on board, but does that entry price stay constant, or does it continue to go up year over year? And then at some point, you have to reassess the value that you're delivering. So I think that more compelling loyalty programs that might exist, and I do think kind of the future of these subscription services and how they become more transparent to the consumer is something that these brands have to think about, because it can eventually erode brand value over time.
So there's a risk here. Let's talk a little bit about that. Do you feel that brands, in some cases, people have actually created sort of a frustrating experience for customers with confused messages and they're not sure what they're buying, that type of thing?
Yeah, I think again, it's around transparency, Doug. It's your ability to remove services if you want to remove services, your ability to bundle services if you want. I mean, I think it's interesting because the subscriptions became really popular because folks wanted transparency. They wanted to understand what they were getting value for. And so if you think back to the days of cable 20 years ago, you paid for this big subscription package and it included 180 channels. And the argument was always, well, I only watch 12, so why am I paying for 180? And so we've moved, kind of to the other side of this equation where now everything's a la carte, and you hear a different argument, which is, man, it's really hard for me to know what I'm paying for, to know what's packaged together. If I want to watch something, I have to authenticate for each of the services. Some of the services may be offered through a certain streaming device while others aren't. We've created a set of complexity within that subscription economy that becomes very hard for the consumer to navigate through. So I do think that pendulum's kind of coming back towards the center a little bit. You saw this, with Charter and the relationship that they struck up with Disney, where they could bring, Hulu and ESPN and Disney, those streaming packages all together under one bundle, and you get that as part of your Charter broadband subscription. And I think you're going to see more of that, where you see these value-added services come together in a meaningful way that creates, easier to use for consumers. Now, I think the counter side of that is, what happens if you have that subscription service, the bundle from Disney, which includes those streaming services, but then you end your relationship with Charter? Do you also end that relationship with Disney? So thinking through what that might mean from a consumer perspective, I think is really important for these brands, of how you tie these things together and really create that lasting value in the engagement cycle.
So how are those insights that you're discussing how do they trickle down to the world of the telecoms?
So for CSG, and we sit, I think, in a really interesting kind of position for these things. It starts with kind of the wholesale agreements that those large brands, the Charters, the Comcast, the Telstras, the MTNs, can actually strike with their partners. So again, if I'm bringing a subscriber base of 20 million users to the table, you have negotiating leverage with some of these big streaming services. And if you can bring those to the table in a value-added package, because you have that buying power, which is much different than you and me going directly to Disney and trying to buy something, I think that becomes compelling because you do get it at a lower price. You probably get it in a more efficient delivery way where it's streamlined to the TVs you watch or the devices you're using to access the content. And it's bundled into a single subscription price, right? And again, I think that's one of the big problem areas we've identified, Doug, is while there's technologies like Chromecast or Apple TV where I can get all my streaming services under one technology platform, I still have to have separate subscriptions with each of the providers. And so again, we're having some separate subscriptions with the providers. As prices go up, as discounts fall off, you don't have the power of that bundle anymore. I think that creates some customer frustration. And one of the things CSG is trying to bring to the table is how you think about not just the customer engagement side of that or the delivery side of the streaming service in a technology way. How do you create a monetization experience that's powerful? So if I buy a $45 per month broadband service from the likes of my cable provider, I can also then get a streaming service on top of that that's at a discounted rate than if I went a la carte. That's interesting to me because at the end of the day, you have to have internet to get streaming. So if I'm already getting that service from my broadband provider, it's a logical extension for that value creation. And then they can plug that back into their technical ecosystems to create kind of a unified experience across their platform. So I think some of these brands are in a unique position to bring those together and then to create the customer experience that we're talking about, where those discounts can be applied, but also a single unified subscription that is easy to understand and you know what you're getting from it.
So this is sort of a classic good and you can do it not good kind of deal, right? So you're describing what might be an amazing opportunity for the telecoms to play and win in this market, yet they need to be really careful about not creating frustration and complexity for the customer.
Yeah, I think that's right, Doug. And I think, again, if we learn from what frustrated customers previously was the bundles got so expansive. Like you were getting, it felt like everything was subsidizing something else. And so I had to take these 20 channels I didn't want to watch just so I could get my regional sports network, right? And if I wanted to just watch the regional sports network, like, well, I didn't want to pay for these other services. But again, I think what we've come to now is everybody's looking at their subscriptions and saying, I think I may be paying more than I was before, even though I wasn't watching some of these channels. There was power in that bundle because there was a lot of services subsidizing one another. And now when you go a la carte, you don't have that reality. The advertising network's much smaller. Your ability to sell ads is much smaller. The number of subscribers within those packages are much smaller. So it makes it more difficult for the content producers to actually make money. So what do they have to do? They have to raise their prices. And when they raise their prices, us as consumers feel the impact. So I do think that there's probably a happy medium. And one of the things we're seeing is really curated bundles of offerings. There could be a sports bundle. There could be a streaming bundle, this Hulu, ESPN, Disney package, right? That's an offering that Disney offers across all of their streaming services that's very unique to the subscriber base. So I do think we're going to start to see more and more of these curated offerings, these bundles across these streamers that make it easier for subscribers to find what they want to watch.
So curation, paying attention to the customer, anything else to sort of avoid the pitfalls. In a way, you're redescribing what cable did a long time ago, but a lot more refined.
Yeah, I think the other thing is leveraging technology to better engage with customers. The way that we communicated with customers 10, 15, 20 years ago was on the monthly statement, right? And so the first time you may have seen your $185 bill that went from $150 to $185 was when you got a physical statement in the mail, or you went to pay your bill, and there's this notion of bill shock. And it's still interesting to me when we talk to our telecom partners in this industry, still 50% of their calls in their call center is around bill confusion. So I think that there's really an opportunity, and something CSG is focused on is helping operators engage with customers on a very personalized level when there's changes in their bill month to month. So if, Doug, you've added a new streaming package, your broadband service has gone from $79 a month to $99 a month, how do I make sure I could proactively communicate with you on that specific topic, and then infusing some agentic AI into these channels where I can engage with you one-on-one about those changes. And if you have questions, I can actually go and get the information you need about them, even to the point where, hey, when I signed up for this, I didn't know it was going to be $99. That's over my budget. What can I do to get my bill down to $89? Well, now we're starting to talk about the dynamic pricing negotiations with these agents that can act on your behalf. And I think that's a really interesting angle when we get down to that personalized level in these kind of conversations. So I think it's the subscription economy, the way that these things have evolved have been really interesting and really powerful for brands and for companies. I think now we're starting to evolve, from one end of the extreme, which is these really high complex price bundles that people were confused and didn't love, to these super simple subscriptions that have, now infiltrated our credit card statements to a point where we're confused. There's something in the middle that makes a lot of sense. And I think it's the brands that have that deep connection. And I think it may start with the connectivity companies that can start to bring these back to the middle and create real value and differentiation.
So as we wrap up our podcast, we're very close to Mobile World Congress. I understand that you guys are actually making a presentation there as well.
Yeah, Doug. We're a big presenter at Mobile World Congress. I think this might be my 15th or 16th straight year heading to Barcelona. So it's
wow.
a few sleepless nights, and we call it speed dating a little bit. A lot of analyst meetings, customer meetings. It's an exciting time for sure. Specifically, though, our CEO Brian Shepard will be presenting a keynote at the show, really focused on this theme around enterprise reinvented. And really, what that means is, when we talked a little bit about this throughout the podcast, is this notion of brands like telcos, being in a position where they can negotiate at a wholesale level differently than individuals can. And if they start to do that, what does the monetization look like? What do these wholesale agreements look like? How do you start to manage that ecosystem? So we'll be talking a little bit about that at the show, along with our experience to value message as we expand kind of the breadth and depth of what traditional BSS platforms have delivered. And again, it's something we're excited to share with the rest of the industry and really engage with folks as we go forward.
Chad, I really want to thank you for joining me today. Thank you for giving us some really interesting insights, getting us updated about the world of subscriptions. Where can we learn more?
You can certainly come to our website at www.csgi.com. We've got a lot of information, customer success stories, etc. Out on our website, and you can always hit me up on LinkedIn or email me at chad.dunavant@csgi.com. I'm happy to engage in further conversations.
Chad, again, thank you very much indeed, and the best of luck at the conference too.
Appreciate it, Doug. Talk to you soon.